And Noor Elashi is talking to us from New York for more about this. Noor, thanks so much for being here. So we saw you in the piece, but I just want you to tell our audience a little bit more about what happened to your father, sort of your side of the story, and why your family is in the situation that they are in today.
Well, first of all, it's a pleasure being here. My father actually immigrated to the United States in the late 70s, and about 10 years later decided he was going to open a charity. And like they said in the piece, he opened the Holy Land Foundation. It became the largest Muslim charity in the U.S. And it gave, charity not only to Palestinians, but, victims of the Oklahoma City bombing, as well as victims of 9/11, and just all over the world, of people impoverished by just natural disasters and war. Now, 3 months after 9/11, the charity was shut down by the Bush administration single-handedly through an executive order. And my father was arrested a few years after that. He was tried in court in 2007, and the charge was that he was giving material support in the form of humanitarian aid to Palestinian, distribution centers called zakat committees that the prosecutors claimed were fronts for Hamas. Now, these were the exact same zakat committees that USAID, United Nations, the Red Cross, every major international NGO was giving charity to the same exact zakat committees. Yet my father and the Holy Land, the other men of the Holy Land Five were singled out because of who they are, because they are Palestinian Americans, because they were outspoken in their communities, and so they were singled out. Now, in 2007, that case actually ended in a hung jury, which after 19 days of deliberations and millions of dollars spent on the case, my father was actually almost vindicated in court. But because there was a hung jury and because there was basically the jury deadlocked on most of the counts, my father was retried in court in 2008, and after essentially the same arguments, he was, convicted and was sentenced to 65 years in prison for giving humanitarian aid to Palestinians.
So you haven't seen your father in something like 2 years, a little over 2 years?
Well, I haven't seen him in about a year and a half, and that's due to the fact that there's just been many punitive actions against him in the prison system. This is sort of like this double, just this double tragedy that we've been experiencing, not only through the court system, but also in the prison system. And my father is in a communications management unit, what's been called a little Guantanamo. There's 2 of them in the nation, and they were opened during the Bush administration, one in Marion, Illinois, one in Terre Haute. My father's in the one in Marion, Illinois, and we went and saw him during Thanksgiving Day, and we traveled all that long way, and we couldn't touch him because, again, cruel and unusual punishment. We had to see him behind a plexiglass wall.
And
he
Noor,
was a few inches away from me, and I couldn't give him a hug. I couldn't embrace him. I couldn't take in that, that parental scent, even if it's, my father doesn't smoke, but, that familiar scent that's, even if it's cologne and cigarettes or whatever it is, my father's is cedar and chamomile. I couldn't just take in that hug and so forth. So that was definitely a little bit disheartening for me.
And
but
Noor,
we did finally get to see him over Thanksgiving.
You were born and raised in this country, as I understand, and I just want to get this in before we have to wrap. But you talked about the decades of questioning the loyalty of immigrants. So do you feel that you're sort of constantly on the defensive about that? And the other question is, who do you blame for that? Is it the media? Is it the system?
Well, I would say that I'm the daughter and granddaughter of Palestinian refugees, and I'm actually writing a memoir right now, and I'm in an MFA program at the New School, and this memoir is going to be about my family's narrative of displacement, and I feel definitely displaced yet again, despite the fact that I was born and raised in this country, but I'm feeling that displacement once again after my father has been dragged through the court system and the prison system.
That's a very interesting point, and we certainly appreciate your time. Noor Elashi, a journalist and activist there for us in New York. Thanks, Noor.